The meeting for June 11th, 2025 is 5 o'clock, and we have a quorum. As you know, Julie Kavanaugh is no longer our select board liaison. Jeff Handler is. He was picked last Monday night. We'll get into that in a little more depth. He had a conflict today, but we have to look at schedules a bit.
That's great.
Bob, could I ask you to move us to executive session?
I would like to move that we go into executive session to have conversation about a negotiation around the piece of parcel of land.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take a roll call vote.
Brendan Lowney?
Yes. Claudia?
Claudia Williams.
And that's an aye, I assume.
That's an
Aye.
That's an
Bob
aye.
Spencer, yes.
And Larry Valentine, I'm an aye. So, Bob, let me turn it over. We do have some public here, so that's good. New business. Bob, I'm going to throw this to you because it's an intriguing idea. I'm not sure what we do with it. It's, Bob, you want to?
Item 4A?
Item 4A.
Okay. I think that it's really good practice to communicate gratitude and appreciation. And I think that we need to do that with the community of Harwich. I'm not sure what the right way to do that is. You know, you can put up banners and they get blown down and taken away and all that stuff, but it really feels proper for us to look for a way to say thank you for the support. We just walked away from the town meeting with $2 million. That's an expression of support for affordable housing, and it deserves a big thank you.
Comments? Claudia?
I guess my really quick thought would be, I like the idea of thank yous when like we finished a project, so we've had that support throughout, you know, so we get the funding and then we move a project forward and then we, you know, gain that support and then we make it happen, or a milestone in something, like so with the 456, do we have a new name for that?
No.
No.
Penrose is gonna hopefully come up with a
Penrose.
name
Okay,
for
we'll
name
call
for
it
us,
Penrose.
yes.
But-
So for like the Penrose, once we get to like a milestone to be like, thank you for your support,
Yeah.
here's what we're doing for you, and here's what we're doing
Yeah.
with the money, kind of thing.
Brendan?
No, I think it's all a very good idea, everything that was said.
I agree with that. We do have a milestone of it when they eventually start opening up the old firehouse. You know, they're working through some paperwork. But that'll be hopefully coming up in a month or two.
That would
That
be
might be an idea we could put, you know, an ad in. Thank you for supporting affordable housing and tie that in with that. That gives us a landmark. I agree.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
I love it.
That's a benchmark.
That's
Bell's
visible.
Bell's Neck.
Bell's Neck would be another one, but
Is
we can
another
do it when-
benchmark. Yep,
Yep.
yep,
Mhm.
okay. So I'd be happy to reach out to the folks at the Chronicle
Okay.
to develop
with like an ad.
an ad, a thank you ad that we can use on multiple occasions. How's
Okay.
that?
Yeah,
do that.
nice. I like a template. Kind
Yeah.
of nice if they keep, you know, if they see something similar, then they start to associate
Yeah.
that and go, okay, let's see what they're doing.
Okay,
A banner or something.
good. Bob will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move the agenda because we have some people on here for the junior theater discussion. And we have two items on the agenda. One is, and I guess I'll go to because Michael's here as well, is interested in the fence discussion. We had a proposal to build a fence. You want just to discuss the reason for the fence and what's behind that?
Sure.
Identify yourself and use the microphone so we're...
My name's Chuck Alexander. I'm on the board of directors of the Harwich Junior Theater, which does business also as the Cape Cod Theater Company. We have a long-term lease on the building at 265 Sisson Road, well, a lease which was put in place about 15 years ago with the town. Since that time, course, the ownership has passed to the Affordable Housing Trust, so in this essence, you're our landlords. However, the lease is still with the town, so it's an interesting relationship, and we work closely with the town, obviously, in terms of maintenance and that sort of thing. We have, during the summer season in particular, a very busy syllabus with kids from age 4 to 13 and a half, sometimes in the order of 50 plus in the building every weekday. This season begins on June 23rd. Every weekday, both morning and afternoon. And so during that time, we have a lot of concern about keeping the kids out of the parking lot. So there is an area which you're probably familiar with in the back of the building, grassy area, which we've expanded this past winter with help from the DPW and your own support. So we've got a new enlarged grassy area. We have picnic tables so the kids have lunch and breaks out there. And also the Food for Kids program, Cape Cod Food for Kids, is also participates, so other people come for that purpose. So we have a lot of kids, and then we have automobile traffic with the parents dropping them off, picking them up. This year we're going to be having a more organized drop-off and pickup line, similar to what you have at the elementary school. But still, we're concerned about keeping the kids in the grassy area and not in the parking lot. So our committee decided that it would be a good idea to build a fence, and we wanted to build something rugged and attractive. So I do have some copies of, I think, the pictures that you guys saw earlier. I don't know if you want me to. Hand you these.
Thank you.
Yep, we can,
So here toward the back,
All right.
there's a conceptual drawing of the fence that's proposed, which is maybe of most interest. It just shows that it forms a barrier there at the edge of the parking lot. So
And-
it's really a safety fence that we're,
yeah, when he first came to us, it was, you described it as being for safety purposes, protect the,
that's the reason.
and who's funding the fence?
We're funding it
You're funding the fence?
just from donations.
And remind me, the lease goes up until,
August of 2034, so there's like
2034,
9
right.
more seasons.
any questions, Bob,
Nope.
No.
Brendan?
I'd like to hear some of the public comment on this, but I do have reservations about, I'm a yes, because it's a safety issue for kids. That's a no-brainer, but I would like to at least get out of this and if we can all do a tour of that building. I see you're using the second floor as well?
We do use the second floor as well.
I think it'd be great for the trust to together just do a meeting and just do a tour of the building, just to see the conditions and, and talk about the lease issues that were brought up. I mean, as far as the fence, I understand the safety of it all, but I think that'd be nice for us to get out there and really take a look at some of the other issues, underlying issues regarding safety.
Sure.
Where do you guys stand on, I know when you look at the lease, you're responsible for the ADA compliance. Has that been addressed in terms of going to the second
Well, the
floor?
first floor has the ramp, it has the ADA compliant restrooms, so when we need ADA compliance, we're restricted to the first floor. So we do have a somewhat limited use on the second floor from that point of view.
Okay, you use it, but you limit it to how?
If we have a student or a participant with a disability, then we'll reschedule and rearrange the use of the building.
Yes.
But there are so many activities going on that it's really necessary to have that extra space available in our current program.
Seriously, discussion is, Has anyone looked at that, how you provide some way to get to the second floor if need be?
There has been some look at that, I think, over the years. I'm not familiar with specific plans, but
Plans are expensive, so.
there's a front stairway which is indoors, but it's not connected indoors to the first floor. And then there's the back stairway, which is currently slated for replacement in the next week or so. The town is working to replace that.
Okay. Describe that to me again. The town's replacing what?
The fire escape,
The fire escape.
because the building inspection last August, September found it to be substandard, I think.
Chuck, that may be something I need to work through the town staff a little better, because as current landlords, we should be notified when those activities take place, and the town hasn't
Well,
notified us of any of
it
those.
seems, you and I talked, and then you went to the building
Yeah,
department and approved the building permit, I think, a few weeks ago. I thought we had discussed it.
okay, I don't recall that, but possibly. My memory's not what it used to be. I'll give you that. Okay,
And based on the lease, the fire egress stairways is done by the landlord, by
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I would think would be brought for us, and potentially historic as well.
I think, it's unclear to me what would be done by the town versus.
Well, that needs to be clarified. I agree with you. That's confusing us as well.
They have been responsive about items on the lease that.
Right, you showed me some of those internally on the,
Yeah.
okay. Public comment, Michael, do you have I know you raised this issue. I call you by your name, Michael, but remember now you have to identify yourself as a podium.
Michael McCaskill, 22 Moss Hill Road. Larry, thank you for bringing this back. And first, thanks to all trustees for all the great work you're doing. It's noticeable, we're making progress. It's been refreshing to see that we're actually making progress in town on affordable housing. Larry, I called you back when I saw that there was a vote taken by the trustees on the fence, but it wasn't on any agenda, which I believe is why you brought it back tonight.
Right.
And I
'cause
thank you for that.
And that was my mistake. We had a historical, but not specifically the fence.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you, and thank you for bringing it back for an official vote where public could speak if they want to speak. I also have no problem with the fence due to the safety issues. My problems are much more global than that. How many of you have read the lease between the junior theater and the town of Harwich? Read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did just before tonight, just a couple days ago, yes.
Okay. We're all familiar, and this could phase into the next topic on the agenda, but we're all familiar with Article 61 of the 2019 annual town meeting, where the town voted to give parcels of land to the Affordable Housing Trust, and I'll leave this with you,
Yeah.
for certain purposes.
Yeah.
So nowhere in that certain purposes does it include any language or anything about a current lease. So right now, the current lease sits in the town of Harwich, but they're not the actual deed person, so I would, the holder of the deed. So I would ask tonight how valid any of this is, without having any idea who's liable for what, who's paying who for what, where the money's going, what the town's responsible for and what the town's not responsible for. And with all due respect to the last August building commissioner deeming those stairs unsafe, and the fact that they're not going to be done for another week or two, yet that floor is being used, and that there's not really an egress, or one that's open at least, going from the upstairs to the downstairs. So to say this is a mess is an understatement. We have several messes in the town that we need to clean up. But who's liable at this point? Is it the town of Harwich, or is it the Affordable Housing Trust if something goes wrong on that? Who is the actual landlord at this point, because the lease is made in the town of Harwich's name? So who is going to grant permission for them to do any work? And I would implore you to speak to the town administrator, town council, and figure out the mess before any decisions are made on this property. Because the Affordable Housing Trust, if they're gonna be a landlord, which was not the intent of town meeting in 2019, that's the first thing that needs to be addressed. If we can get past that, the Affordable Housing Trust should create a lease between Harwich Junior Theater or the tenant and the Affordable Housing Trust. We should speak to the insurance company. We should follow the dollars and see where the money's going. And the taxpayers have a right to know what they're spending on that building and what's coming in and where it's going. Nobody had any information on that whatsoever. I've looked at this for a week, still have gotten nothing back from the town at all, except for the lease. But the financial trail doesn't exist, the cost to the buildings, whether or not the tenant or the town has done what they're supposed to do in the lease arrangements, there's no information. Yet you're being asked to put up a privacy fence on a property that we're not even sure you're supposed to be the landlords, or if that property is supposed to just be for affordable housing. The article at town meeting and the debate speak for itself. The lease, I'm sure, is a legal binding agreement, but nobody's looked at it, and nobody's weighed in on that. So what are we gonna do with this property? The second agenda item tonight's really what perked me up after our conversation. We talked about, all we needed to hear as the public was that it's a safety issue, and I'm fine with it, and I would probably chip in some dollars for that. But I don't believe anything that we're doing and anything we approve at this point isn't something that we're just throwing on a table, and that it's legal or not legal, insurable or not insurable. And I'm not convinced that anybody should be using that second floor of that building at all. And I believe the building commissioner needs to go in there also. There's been several complaints about the condition, and I know the fire inspector was over there looking at the stairs, which is how I got my answer that they're gonna be replaced within the next 2 weeks. But there was a whole laundry list of other things that needed to be done too. So I would ask that the next topic you don't bother with at all until we get some actual answers. And then just remind you that you're a fiduciary trust. So coming up with any other concept or idea on that property, any part of that property, or even with this building that isn't related to affordable housing, is not what town meeting voted. So I would ask you to take that into mind, what the intent is of the article and what you're supposed to be doing with it before you make any decisions. And then fact gather and meet with the town administrator, the chair of the select board. And then if it's gonna go on as a tenant situation, maybe a portion of that property should be given back to the town, and the town should explore whether it wants another project there or to continue on a lease. All questions that need to be answered, all questions that aren't answered, and I would just ask you to walk slowly until we figure it out. Because right now, we don't have a legal lease on that property, because the town of Harwich is not the owner. The Affordable Housing Trust is. That's all I have.
Michael, let me, thank you, by the way, for a very good discussion about what the concerns are.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Let me just finish a couple comments on that. Trying to say this politely, but I won't. We have, and I know especially Bob has been, and Brendan both, we all have, for some time trying to get clarification on the lease. We've also asked questions about the liability. And we've gotten vague answers that, okay, because the town's involved, they're covered under our general liability insurance. But we haven't got answers that have satisfied us, but quite frankly, after a while, we wore out. So we've had those questions that we've raised those questions, haven't got responses to. And I agree, we need to pursue it again. But I just wanted to point that out. We haven't been completely blind on it. We've been trying to get some of those answers going forward.
And if I may, thank you for that. I'm not convinced, based on my 1 week's research, that our insurance company even knows that those properties are being occupied by somebody else at this point. So nobody could answer that question. I believe, in speaking to Brendan, that the town administrator expressed that we were covered because the Affordable Housing Trust is part of Harwich. It's a great statement, but
Right.
it's not in writing.
But we haven't,
And I'm not convinced Maya knows.
yeah, I just wanted to point out, you've raised those questions, but we're with you on that because we have as well. The first part, the next part of the agenda, because I reversed it some, was, and I think I mentioned it on the phone, we're trying to be as creative as we can to create more housing. You know, whether it's small units, we've talked about buy down, you know, whatever, accessory dwelling units, we're trying to do what we can within the framework of what's legal. And when we look at this property, and there's some other properties maybe as well, you know, I don't know what would happen, but does it hurt to put out an RFP, for instance, saying, you know, protect that building, upgrade it, and put affordable housing around it? Does that would anyone be interested in that? I don't know, and I don't think we'll know till we ask. But there are some possibilities, possibly we could do something in that total property that would make sense and actually do protect interests. And we're just now in that discussion phase of, you know, what can we do? I agree, we first have to answer your questions, but then what can we best do for all parties? And that's where we are now. That's why, and I appreciate the input into that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the answer. The thing that sticks with me the most as you look at these properties, and Larry, I was on the board when we gave these properties, Board of Selectmen, when we gave
Right.
these properties to the Affordable Housing Trust. I think you were as well.
I was, well, yeah.
A lot of the discussion and everything that happened leading up to that was, here's some properties. In some cases, it doesn't look like we gave you a gift. But there was always if you can't use them, give them back, right? So there is you're not locked into owning these. It was also talked about selling them and putting the money into the trust and using that money somewhere else. And
Right.
back to my original comments, you're doing a great job with these small projects, 100% behind them, and we really are making some progress. So I appreciate that. I just think in looking at this particular property with this particular situation, you probably have 15 or so questions that need to be answered before you should make any decision on this property.
Yeah.
And really, it's I believe will involve council, a review of what town meeting voted, and to get to a point where you feel comfortable doing anything with it at all. And before I forget, previous speaker, if you left your cell phone up here, it's up here. Okay.
Yeah, please. Brendan?
So
Thank
real
you, Mike.
quickly, just with regards to the lease, KP Law, when we first got this going back, 5 years ago, when we got the property within that first year, KP Law did weigh in, and they said that the lease does transfer to us, and we would be the landlord. But they went on to say that we're not really designed to be landlords, and it's something we should think about. So that's why I want to really go take a look at the property, maybe look at the lease, see what has been done, what hasn't. Like, there was supposed to be a lift put in, wasn't put in, but I don't know if we want to go down that road of discussion. But I think when it comes to safety, it's hard to say no to a fence. If we say no to the fence tonight, that means they can't use the picnic area. So it's like, those are really the options.
Yeah.
So do we put the brakes on and then just try to reconvene 2 weeks from now? And maybe do a quick site visit and wrap our heads around this and ask some questions with KP Law? That's the way I would probably go with it.
I would, yeah.
And just put a little break on everything and just see where we're at.
I don't know. I like to move ahead with the fence.
Hmm.
Then we have to answer the questions that, I think I see them somewhat separately. But,
And I got one more question about the fence to the applicant. Why 42 inches high? Just curious on the height.
Well,
I know commercial code is 42 for,
yeah,
for a guard, but it's just an outside railing. Just
Do you mind
curious.
going to the microphone, just so people can hear it?
Well, we didn't need a visual obstruction, we needed something to keep kids
Mhm.
on one side and allow, I would think allow the parents to see. So 42 just seemed like
Height-wise.
I mean, it wasn't a scientific calculation, 42 inches. It's also based on building materials, we'll be being efficient with the 36-inch balusters and, a couple inches of top rail, and comes out to 42 pretty easily.
you okay?
Yeah, all set, thank you.
Claude?
So I guess I always look, I look at like worst case scenarios, so say, and I don't understand, so I appreciate, Michael, and, in terms of getting some clarity, but say we approve the fence tonight, and the town comes back and says, we're not in that position, would that require, HJT to take the fence down? I mean, is there any, I'm trying to see if there's any negative to approving the fence, and I can't really think of any.
I can't think of any, but,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, if we approve the fence, but, I don't know how you can guarantee that we get some answers on this as soon as possible, but I would say we need to get answers on this
Yeah.
as soon as, like, as
Right.
soon as possible. That this, I haven't walked through it, but it sounds like, you know, you're all in need of some support, and we need to find out where that support comes from for the safety, right? For the second floor, for the stairs, for everything that's being talked about, so, you know, making sure you have what you need and from the people that should be giving it, and
yeah.
and I know that's, again, as Larry said, it's a question we've had all along in terms of, you know, being landlords on this property, and certainly not what we were, you know, intending to do outside of the affordable housing component on the property, so.
Thank you, Claudia.
Okay.
Bob?
Yeah, I think that doing nothing is not a solution. But in deference to what you've suggested, Michael, that I would be willing to put old business item B in abeyance. Let's set aside the conversation that we were going to be having about the potential of a historic campus. Let's put that on hold for now until we do more research, get more clear answers. But I don't want to put anybody in the position of having a program for kids without a fence there differentiating the traffic area and the pedestrian area. I think that that's wrong to not do something. So
Okay.
What about the back staircase
that's
happening next week?
next week.
What about it?
That's gonna happen?
Apparently, it's gonna happen.
That's what I've been told.
Do we, as, sorry, I need to laugh, but as landlords, do we have, some control over making sure the building commission or whoever's doing that or saying they're gonna do that are actually doing that? It would seem like we
We-
would have quite a bit of power if we
Yeah.
are in fact the current landlords. I feel like we should probably wield some of that power and make sure these things are happening for you. Now that, I mean, I'm aware of it now, so I'm like, okay, now I know, so now something needs to, right, if we're on
We
the
did- yeah.
hook, so to speak, then it has to happen. And we're the landlord, so we get to
But-
make it
I
happen.
think at a minimum, I would make a motion to approve the fence with two conditions, that the outside space not be used until the back staircase is repaired and the fence is up. I would make a motion for that.
I'd like
At a
to
minimum.
add another factor. When I became a member of the board just about 4 years ago, there was an existing plastic-like construction fence that still exists. It's got metal posts and it's a flimsy plastic fence, so there is something there. I should mention that if you go and look at it, it's not very pretty, and that's one of the things we had in mind was it's not a safe barrier, it's kind of a visual barrier, but it exists, so I thought if you're gonna go look, you might be surprised to see it. It's one of those Home Depot plastic garden fence things. But in terms of the staircase, I've been in pretty constant communication with Sean Libby the last several days because of our concern about it being ready for the 23rd. He's been tells me he's been in communication with contractor. The contractor expected it to be a fairly short job. I was surprised at 2 or 3 day job, and
Well,
so we're still.
We're paying for that,
no,
right? Are we gonna agree to
the
pay for
town
that?
is.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be Michael's question. Like, who's gonna be paying for the taxpayers or the trust? So that's what I'm trying to get at,
Yeah, I don't know that.
you know? And like I said, at a minimum, I think the space outside should not be used if you have a safety concern. I think the fence should be put up and the stairs should be fixed, and then we should agree tonight that if there's a cost associated with the staircase, I believe the fire egress on the lease, the landlord's supposed to take care of that. We are the landlord. So we're saying yes to a staircase that we don't know anything about or the cost. So it's kind of, That's why we should really kick this another 2 weeks, just to wrap our heads around it.
Just as a reference, our class schedule begins on the 23rd of June, and we'll have students on the site beginning on the 23rd. So it's quite critical that we proceed.
And that starts on the 23rd?
The classes begin on June 23rd.
And when's the staircase being built?
Sean has assured me it will be done by the 23rd, and obviously I'm getting nervous.
Well, go ahead.
And so if it's built by the 23rd, it'd have to be inspected before any kids could go in, right? So is there a building inspection?
Yeah, there'd be a framing inspection. That would happen pretty quickly.
Okay,
It's not really a
I
huge deal
guess
for
I
them.
just want to
But
make
none of
sure.
that affects the fence. That's, I think, two separate
Sure.
things. I was thinking that because of the delay we've been through, frankly, building the fence before the 23rd has become probably not feasible because we have to take this back to the Historical Commission a week from tonight if you approve it, which is the 18th, and that's just days before classes begin. So we may need to rely on that plastic safety fence for another season, because once the kids are there, I don't think we can be building that. I have a sense that the stairs will be built. I think it'll be difficult to build a fence in 3 days, properly build the fence in 3 days.
I don't know.
Okay.
Our neighbors just put in a huge fence around the yard. They did it in half a day, just because they brought it all together. I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
Yeah, well,
anyways, for what that's worth.
yeah,
Okay.
Last question. Do you know the cost of the staircase?
no, staircase, no.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. Michael and then Mary?
Thank you. And Bob, I agree with you. Some sort of fence should be put up. And I don't want to hold anything back on the fence and the safety of the kids. I would add that the applicant should speak to DPW. Fences will keep kids out of the parking lot. The fence won't keep car out of the kids. The big giant rocks that we have plenty of down at the dump, might be nice to strategically place a few of those if we're going to be pulling cars up to
Yeah.
a fence, given all the restaurants that have been driven into lately. Outside of that, Brendan, thank you for asking that question about who's going to pay for because in my mind, as a taxpayer, the trust is paying for it. The trust has no idea what it's going to cost the trust. And you've not had a conversation about approving the money. Along with many, many, many other things in that building, which is why I say that I think it makes sense to pause. They also have to go before Historic to get approval, not only on the fence, but on the stairs. Not once tonight have we heard anyone talk about going to Historic, or even 2 weeks ago when you and I had this first, on the stairs,
But which has to be done.
right? And the fact that you all didn't know the details of what's gonna happen is a bit disturbing as the landlord. So that's why I say, and I really don't wanna hold them up, but we really need to do it right
Yeah.
to protect everybody in this town, and you have the right to know what it's gonna cost you, and whether or not you're even getting any of the rent yet, because you might not be getting that yet either. And those are my points. Last point, and Bob, thank you for your enthusiasm and the second agenda item about maybe making a historic, I'm not sure what you called it. Campus on site. And I would only ask, and I don't need an answer tonight, I would just ask you to think about it. What does that have to do with your fiduciary trust and Article 61 of 2019 town meeting, having you be part of anything like that? And I think that if that's the direction this board wants to go, then the board should give the property back to the town. The project, as you envision it, should be given to the executive body, and they should determine if it's gonna happen, whether or not CPC funds are gonna fund it. That would be outside of any affordable project on the property. And I don't see it as your role to create anything there except for affordable housing based on how it was voted to give you those properties.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Might I respond?
Sure.
Yeah. The intention all along has been to develop affordable housing there, if it's a possibility. If it's a possibility from the Historic Commission's point of view, if it's a possibility from the town's point of view, that would be, so if we did, we would want to do that in a manner that would be in keeping with the historic nature of that space. It is about affordable housing, Michael.
Right, but the historic theater that you're talking about, or property, that I didn't get from reading the agenda or from your statement. I didn't get that what
No,
you
I'm
were
not-
looking to create there, or the town was, or that you were gonna recommend. I didn't get that that was affordable housing.
No, I'm not talking about a historical theater,
Okay, you're talking about
affordable housing.
in that manner. Thank you for clarifying. That's not how I read it, that's all, but thank you for
That's fine.
clarifying.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Michael.
And thank you for the time.
Yeah. Mary?
Mary Maslowski. I will just clarify a couple of Michael's points. One, I just wanted to point out, as a point of information for those watching, your vote here tonight on the fence doesn't permit the fence, obviously. It is
Right.
correcting the defect that it hadn't been voted on before it came to the historic agenda. It's actually on the historic HDHC's agenda for next week. So we will be looking at and vetting the application at that time. So I just wanted to point that out. And one clarification, I'm not sure that we need to see or have the purview on the fire escape. I think the fire escape, because it's a safety issue, I think that's strictly the building commissioner. Yeah, so I think that, I don't think we will be seeing that, but we will be seeing the fence next week. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it. That was
I-
helpful.
yeah, thank you for that. And to me, it seems like the thing to do is to move on the safety fence, and then Michael will go back. Michael, you don't have to get up, but what I'd like to do is, because you've done some more recent deep search, let's get together and go through some of the details that you're questioning. And I'm not proud, I'll pick your brain so we can move forward on answering some of those questions. Because they're ones we've had in a general way, but we probably haven't got in the nuts and bolts as clearly as you have. If that's appropriate. In the meantime, if there's a motion, I'd like to move on the fence.
Brendan already put a motion on the
Yeah.
table.
Well, you were tying it, do we all want to tie it to the fire escape? I'm a little concerned
Well,
about
if it's
that.
gonna be done before the classes start on the 23rd, why not throw it in there? If we're talking safety, let's be safe, right? If we're gonna,
Okay. Well, my mission after this meeting, I can't tomorrow, but right away, is get back to Sean and figure out what the schedule actually is. And I'm not sure with the town administrator leaving right now who asked this question, but who's paying for what, actually? I'm gonna try to clarify that in the next couple of days on that fire escape. But we have a motion, is there a second?
well, I'll read it again.
Can you, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like
motion to
weigh in.
approve the Harwich Junior
Okay.
Theater request to install a fence at site for safety issues, as submitted, with a contingency that the staircase, rear access staircase and fence be done by June 23rd.
Is there a second?
Can I say something before, I don't know. how
You
that
can do either
process
one,
is.
we can go, go ahead.
I'm just thinking about what Mary just said in terms of what's our jurisdiction in the fence is, if we're voting on the fence because we've talked about the fence and we need to vote on the fence, but as far as the staircase, that's something separate in terms of the town and who's taking care of that. So I'm wondering if we really need to tie them both together. I mean, obviously, I'm 100% for that staircase getting done, but I'm not sure about as a caveat to the fence.
Yeah, let me push it
personally.
back to you, because I'd be a little more comfortable of keeping it separate.
Motion to approve the Junior Theater request to install a fence at the site for safety issues, with the contingency that the fence be done by June 23rd.
Well, I guess,
Is that possible by the 23rd?
I don't know, if they're going next week, it may not be possible, so
What's the
it
date?
seems like
I'm
they.
sorry, I thought you said you could get it done before the 23rd.
That's the staircase, not the,
Staircase.
The staircase is scheduled for construction next
They
week.
have to go to.
Motion to
Historic.
approve the Harwich Junior Theater request to install a fence on site for safety issues as submitted.
Okay,
Second.
second. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Then we'll move ahead, and then we have our,
want to vote?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's approved. And we'll follow up with the discussions, Mike, you and I, and then I'll bring it back here. And we'll figure out who we talk to get some of the answers. That's been the problem.
And
I
is
will-
there
we'll
any way
leave it
we
there.
can help support the staircase, or that's totally out of our hands, sounds like?
I think we just need to know what's going on
Okay,
in
All
a
right.
factual way. Yeah, we knew, but what
Yeah.
the details are.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, and we'll postpone then the other part about, Bob, the item
Indeed.
B, and bring that back.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Mary.
So
Thanks,
we'll-
Michael.
Go ahead then with the Historical Commission next
Yeah.
week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going on to, we're moving back to item A, discussion of use disposition, and Bob and Brendan, you both brought this back to us before on 0 Oak Street, 0 Depot Street. Do you want, we've had these discussions, where you want to do any, where you want to go with this?
You're looking at me, and I'm saying that I would like to put 0 Oak Street on the market, and I'd like to put 0 Depot Road on the market. However we do that, if it's an RFP, if it's, how we go about doing that, I don't know.
I think we do an RFP with a, how was land done in Queen Anne? Help me out again. RFP for the land on Queen Anne that was sold, the
The
commercial.
industrial?
Yeah,
Mm.
so
Right.
that was an RFP, and we put a minimum.
Yep, based on, at that point, we'd use the assessor's value as a minimum. I guess we have to pick one. Because that was our discussion before. Do we need an appraisal or not? And I don't think we do.
Well, if we're gonna just sell it, we just need an appraisal, or we can use the assessed
We use
value.
assessor value.
My
when
question
we
was,
do.
if we do it the pathway that was done through an RFP, we could just set a minimum. It doesn't have to be
Right,
the appraised or the assessed value.
yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
I think, Claudia?
Can you get me up to speed on the 0, on the 2 that you're talking about, just to tell me? Sorry, I didn't bring my giant notebook.
I brought it as,
So it's 0 Oak,
this is it in a summary form.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
okay, that's a good place.
0 Oak.
Pardon?
That's the best place to find the information.
Because I think our discussion in the past, Bob, if I'm right, is the decision was that there's not much we could do with it. There's only enough room to build maybe a small,
Mhm.
So the
wouldn't be practical
1.5
for
and the
us.
1 acre are the ones you're talking about? The 0 Oak Street and 0 Depot?
0 Oak Street and 0 Depot Road.
Road.
Oh, 0 Depot Road, okay.
You know,
It gets confusing because we
Yeah.
have too many,
Thank you.
my thinking is that we need council's advice as to the best way to proceed to dispose of those properties. You know, we've talked about retaining our own counsel long ago, but right now, we don't have that option. We need to go through KP law. So I would,
That's
I would,
okay.
Can't Megan, I think Megan can just take care of the RFP for us, is that not correct?
well, but what
Just
Bob
a-
is asking is some legal advice
Oh, yeah, okay.
going to Megan. Megan can do it.
I think that we ought to cover our bases.
What's
Okay.
the legal advice for?
The legal advice is to what is the best way for us to proceed with the sale of these 2 properties.
Okay.
I thought
Okay.
we, I
Coming
thought
to
we already
talk or
went
you're
through
leaving?
that.
We,
You might have missed that meeting.
He's coming to
I
talk.
did
We would
miss a
ask
meeting.
Julie
Yeah.
this question, I
Michael,
feel
can you
like if
explain
she
how,
was
yeah,
here.
can you help us out here?
Yeah, sorry to stand up again. Bob, to your point, we have a fairly thick legal packet, so we sold 3 on Queen Anne Road recently.
Mhm.
So KP Law's weighed in, there is a process. Megan did handle that RFP for
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
Jeff Handler is now
Our-
voted the other night your
right.
liaison.
Mhm.
So you can go through Jeff to get to whomever you have to get to. But all that information that you're requesting exists because we did it on the first lot on Queen Anne Road, and then we just did it with 2 more.
Great.
And it was a fairly simple process, unlike the land of low value sale. So
Thank you.
this, that you are the deed owner, it's a very straightforward process.
Thank you.
Can I ask a
Okay.
quick question while you're there? How did they determine the price?
Well, I was gonna add, but I won't have to add. I believe you can go off of assessed. You may need an appraisal. That's the only piece of the paperwork I can't remember.
I think we had this discussion before, Michael, my understanding, talking to Joe at one time was, a few months ago, is that we could use we could get an appraisal or use assessor's value. The caveat is once we pick one, we have to stick with it.
Yes.
You can't choose the assessors and say, well, okay, the appraisal, say, you have to decide.
And those would be minimums if
And we
you
could use
decide.
minimum, and then we don't have to
Oh.
accept it or not.
Right, so the first lot on Queen Anne's Road sold for 1.5 plus million, and we had put a $900,000 price tag on it. So that one got bidded up. The second two, one was 700,000, one was 800,000. They were the only two bidders, and they bid the minimum, and they both got the lots.
But your minimum was under the assessed value.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's how you do it. So
So
if you do
I-
it, if you don't use the appraisal or the assessed value, you have to go through RFP. And then
But we
if
can
not,
use the assessed value.
then
Okay.
if you want to sell it outright,
Yeah.
then you do the appraised value or the assessed.
And if we vote tonight to do this, I can contact Megan and we'll get Jeff and we can just go
Megan is a
ahead.
rock star, and she has it all,
Yeah,
and the
all
legal
that.
opinion is
So
with
we
it.
we can
Oh,
move ahead,
perfect.
we
Thank
can move ahead
Thank
with it.
you. Okay. Well, that's great. Okay, thank you.
So Bob, you want to move that we,
I move that we initiate conversation with Megan to talk about the proper procedure to sell 0 Oak Street and 0 Depot Road, and that we get that process underway.
okay. A second?
Second,
Guess we've discussed any other discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
just a quick correction, I believe it's Depot Street.
It's Depot Street,
Street.
it's Oak Street and Depot Street.
Yeah,
Depot Road's
Thank
the old
you.
Depot Road's
I
another
get
one.
confused.
I got the note on that.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, good. The other discussion, D then, is discussion of inclusionary zoning and how we might use that. Claudia, you'd raised this issue, and I'd asked Christine to join us, and she couldn't make it tonight, so maybe give us some background, and then we can ask, Christine, I think, can make our next meeting if we,
Oh, great. Yeah, this is, this is something that we did in Chatham. I don't have the details, it was a long time ago. But I think it was something like 1 out of 4, as the Affordable Housing Committee, so before housing trusts were created, we worked with the town on creating this and bringing it to town meeting. It seemed to go well in terms with the builders, we had a lot of support for it, and, I feel like you all know about it anyways, but the idea, especially in some of the town building, would be nice to get, affordable units tucked in to some of those. I know they may be past that point at this point, but just for the future. And the builders talked us through it in terms of they just used, less expensive materials, but basically it looks the same. And I don't even know if it's something under our jurisdiction or
Yeah.
purview or something we should do. It was more out of curiosity and seeing things come forward in the town and wondering why we don't have it. At this point, I think we've been talking about it for
Yeah.
quite a while, and then we talked about it on the Affordable Housing Committee when I was on that before this trust.
it's a good discussion point. I guess my question, one, you've actually inferred as well, is that may not be us, that may be a bylaw going to town to do, much broader than the housing trust.
Yeah, maybe it's the idea of,
We could
what
propose
can
the
we do to
idea to the
support it?
select board maybe,
Yep.
if we wanted to go that way.
Or give it to the Affordable Housing Committee.
Affordable committee.
If they wanna, 'cause it does take some, I don't know, for us, it took a lot of organization and working with the town to make, to keep it moving. So if Christine's got it, and that's fine, or if she wants to do it with the committee, that's fine.
Then you did it in Chatham,
Mhm.
but we should steal from them then.
Yeah, right, I know, see if it's even in place still, but yeah, it was great.
Claudia, when you talk about the Affordable Housing Committee, what is that? Are you talking about the Housing Committee?
You're talking about the housing committee, I think. what you
Housing
meant.
Committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, that's all right.
Back then, it was called the Affordable Housing Committee, but yes. So I think when we were talking about splitting, where's the trust and where's the committee was more advocating for housing, whereas we're
Right.
creating it, so this may be more under the advocating
Yeah.
piece, but,
You're
or I-
talking,
yeah, go ahead.
you're talking
Well,
about.
let me, Bob is
Isn't,
first.
isn't there something in the local comprehensive plan draft that speaks to this?
I don't know.
As I think contained within the housing production plan? I mean, there's 155 pages there.
Yeah, and I haven't,
There's a lot
It
that's
might be
been
a
said.
recommendation, but I don't think it's actually in place, so I think
No,
the
it's
idea
not
would-
in place.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think with Christine, it was more of just, again, informational, if she can come and tell us what's going
Right.
on, and that way if people ask me about it, I don't have an answer, so
Yeah.
I could certainly ask her myself, but might as well have all of us
Right.
informed.
okay.
But you're talking a zoning change that requires new development to have X amount % of affordable in their developments.
Correct.
Okay.
I would like to pursue it in the context of an advocacy for someone else to take it on.
Yeah,
You know,
Housing committee.
yeah,
Housing committee, select board, you know, whether it comes, because I think it'd be a town meeting action.
yeah, it is, it's, yeah,
It's not, it's outside of our,
it's
but we
not a
could-
small venture,
it's not,
but.
and so we could bring it as an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we could do a joint meeting with the committee if it gets to that and just see how we can help each other or what, what the committee would need, so.
Okay, let's see what information we can bring forward then.
Thank
and-
you.
And we can,
That's great.
maybe move this, you know, where it belongs.
Okay, thanks.
Which, thank God
Seems
it's
to
not
be our
us.
agendas tonight, yeah.
Okay. Item E on the agenda is the approve the minutes for the following meetings.
Before you do that,
Yeah.
it's February 12th, and not February 1st.
Thank you. So we have one correction. And we put this together because we had, quite frankly, we lost track. We voted approval of some of these minutes, but not all of them. And so we just decided to go back and be sure the minutes are out there, that they're final and they're approved for the record.
Mhm. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 12th, 2025, March 12th, 2025, April 16th, 2025, May 7th, 2025, and May 14th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good. So then we're up to speed
Yeah.
on the minutes.
And can I ask a related question? I'll shut up pretty quick. We voted to approve the land lease. Do we have that published on the website?
I don't think we do. It should be, because I know people have asked me for it, and I've given it, because it's not private anymore.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that, be sure
Okay.
it's on the
All right,
land lease.
thank you.
Does that go to, who does that go to, Brianna, or,
Brianna would put it on the website.
got it,
Yeah,
okay,
Well, it'll go on the Harwich Housing website.
yeah,
right, yeah.
yeah, okay, thanks.
As, I think, Michael, you mentioned, but we all know that Jeff Handler is our new select board member.
Yep.
He couldn't, as I mentioned going into the meeting, he couldn't make it tonight because he has he has commitment. I've been out in the water all day, so I didn't get a lot of chance to cover this stuff, but I think 5 o'clock may be a problem for him in the future. Is there, I think, Brendan, you mentioned early on, we were meeting at 1 o'clock on.
We used to
on
meet
the day.
Mondays at 1 o'clock, and we did that for probably, 5+ years.
Does that work for
I'm off that day.
Mondays at 1? I could do Mondays at 1,
That works.
if we can get a room. Bob, would that work?
Yeah.
Okay, that's simple. Let me follow up and see if that works with Jeff, and we'll pick a date that we can go forward with it. Good, that was easy discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So
The
that-
next meeting is,
that was in July?
starting July. And what I have to do is be sure we have a meeting room, so I'll follow up with that, if everything else. July 9th is our next meeting.
Unless we change.
Unless we change. Right now, I'm
Oh.
assuming we're gonna, excuse me, it won't be July 9th, it'll be the Monday of that week then,
7th.
the 7th. But I'll confirm that. And my other comment on that is that I won't be here for that meeting. I'm unfortunately going to spend the week in Scotland, drinking all the scotch I can drink.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll think of you guys. Is there any,
Does Brendan run the meeting? Who runs
Brendan
the-
runs the meeting.
Nice.
Can we do a tour of the junior theater?
Yeah, let me, I'll email and get some dates when we do a tour. There's two tours we need to have a couple tours we need to make. One is the junior theater. Last time I talked to Bruce, it's time for us to have a tour of the fire station.
Oh, nice.
We should go through that, so let me
Okay.
arrange that. And I think that John Kerry's ready for us to have another tour there.
Okay.
I've seen both properties. It's worth going into.
And so,
They're
maybe
great.
we can, maybe we pick a time where we can do a few hours and do all three of them. Let me see where we are.
Okay.
And I'll send some emails around.
For the firehouse, did they do anything, I can't remember if I asked this before, like a plaque for the firemen who put in all the sweat equity? Or is that something we could I don't know, I feel like something should be, I don't know the word, immortalized, is that the right word, memorialized? I know, like in Chatham, when we did the community center, we had the selectmen, obviously, who voted it in, but I feel like with the firehouse, it'd be nice to do something for those guys. I know Cape Cod 5 gave, and CPC and all that, but
Mhm.
those
I'm not
guys
sure what they
really
have in
did.
mind, yeah.
It would be nice.
And then I'll follow up with that. And I didn't follow up, I promised that I would try to pick a date where we could visit the Penrose,
Oh, yeah.
and I'll do that again.
Yeah, that'd be nice to walk that again.
No, the development, was it Yarmouth? Not Yarmouth, but
Oh, the one they did.
the one they've done.
They had one, the one they said closest to us was the one in Wareham.
Yeah. I'll try it. We have some things to schedule this summer as we go
Okay.
forward. Okay?
Yep.
Great.
Anything else we need to discuss? Any comments from the Bob or Art? Been very,
Brendan, how do you want to construct an agenda for the 7th? You want us to
Yeah, I would just,
email you
yeah,
ideas?
sure.
Okay, thanks,
Let's do
Michael.
okay,
Why don't we do that?
good.
Do you want to do the tour before that meeting? You want to be there for that?
Uh,
I'll let you handle that.
yeah,
I just think
Yeah,
we should
I
put our
wanna- I
eyes on,
wanna see the
what was great about
tours,
the
but-
conversation today was really just make awareness that we should get over there and take a look at that building.
Yeah.
That was the driving
yeah,
point I was trying to make, because I heard a lot of information I didn't know
yeah,
during that meeting, so
Yep.
it would be nice to get our eyes on it.
okay. Well, let me throw some ideas out for scheduling, or you guys get back to me. Why don't you probably get back to me when you can't do it?
I know, I was gonna say, I'm gone, I'm to Vermont the next week, and then I have family coming for 2 weeks,
You know,
so.
summer's busy,
it's
so
tricky.
maybe, yeah,
But if you guys schedule it, then I'll just do my best to make it,
Yeah.
okay,
just for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pretty,
okay.
Larry, we could always go over, you and I, and then do it before the meeting on the 9th for everybody,
Yeah,
or the 7th, whatever.
Yeah.
the meeting is. So we'll figure
yeah,
it out.
just
We'll
let us
figure it
know, if
out.
you do it, just let me know.
yeah, okay. Accept a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brendan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.